Welcome to Business Exit Success, the podcast dedicated to helping small business owners on how they can successfully transition out of their business on their terms while also living a life of purpose and fulfillment after the sale. I am your host, certified financial planner and certified exit planning advisor, Tom Poltersdorf. Hey everybody, welcome back to Business Exit Success. Today we're talking about something different that I'm personally going through in my life and also with a couple clients of mine. And I'll be honest, this isn't a fun topic to discuss, but it's so important to plan for, especially if you own a business, that I needed to do an episode on it. So here's the scenario of what actually happened. It's December 21st, 2022, normal work day for me. It was a Wednesday. I'm in my office getting some stuff done, and it was about 4 or 5 o'clock when I heard my wife get a phone call. Dad is having a heart attack. And long story short, my father-in-law, age 73, took his normal day nap and didn't wake up. In the matter of seconds, life changed. What if this was you? One day you're running your business, and out of nowhere, you're gone. What happens to your business, your family, your employees? Many businesses, when this happens, have to close their doors. I share this story today because life is short, and most of us, including myself, put off the hard planning that needs to be done. And by hard planning, I mean talking about who would be the successor of my business if I weren't there. If I have a family business, do my kids even want to take it over? Are they qualified to? How much is my business worth so I can make sure my family gets paid out fairly? This is the hard planning, but necessary planning. So I want to give an overview of buy-sell agreements today, talk about how they work and the benefits. After that, I will run through a checklist of the essential 13 documents that need to be in place to have a solid estate plan. I will include a link to the checklist in the show notes, and you can go to beyondyourexitwm.com/podcast, and this is episode 22. All right, so buy-sell agreements. Here's what happens when you don't have one in place. For those of you that have partners and or multiple owners, if there is no buy-sell or succession plan in place, and one of you passes away out of the blue, the spouse of the deceased owner then replaces that ownership stake in the business. So your wife, your husband, now becomes an owner of a business. Now, in my experience, the majority of the time, the spouse of the deceased owner who just inherited ownership interest is not equipped to fulfill that role. They may not have the skills, time, or interest to do it. So now the remaining owner or owners have to buy the deceased owner's spouse out of the business. You'll need to get a basic valuation done on the business to determine the value of each of the owner's equity, and then figure out how you're going to buy this person out. Doing all of this and figuring it out while continuing to run the business, and also now have to pick up the job responsibility of the deceased owner, can be very challenging, especially when these situations happen when you least expect it. So how can you prepare for this well in advance and plan ahead? Hence the buy-sell agreement. Now this document, it lays out the details of how these specific situations are handled. Buy-sell agreements answer the who, when, what, where, and how of selling your business. It specifically is a legally binding agreement between the owners of a business that outlines how the business will be transferred in the event of an owner's death, disability, or retirement. If you have an existing buy-sell, I would recommend you review it and update it on a regular basis. So going back to our example, if one day you don't wake up and pass away, but you have this document in place, you already built the roadmap of what needs to happen. Within the document, there is an agreed value for the business. Equity percentages are broken down. It's determined who will step up and fulfill the role. It is also determined on how the buyout will be funded. The majority of the time, if planning is done well in advance, the buy-sell can be funded with life insurance if the owners are insurable. So back to our example on how this works. One of the owners passes away. In this case, with life insurance, the life insurance will pay a death benefit to the business to be used to buy out the deceased owner's share in the business. That way, the deceased owner's family is made whole and can move on, and the remaining owners can continue doing their thing within the business. Now, keep in mind, this is an oversimplification of the structure because there are entity purchase buy-sells and cross-purchase buy-sell agreements with pros and cons depending on how many owners there are, etc. Now, there may be the case where someone isn't insurable, meaning they don't qualify to get insurance to fund their share of the agreement. This can be covered in numerous ways. Some choose to borrow money from the bank, while others self-fund it. Self-funding is when you continuously put money away within the business and let that build up as a pot of money for a potential buyout down the road. Now, I mentioned a checklist, and I want to run through that right now so you can understand, besides just a buy-sell agreement, what other items should be in place. Again, I will have this checklist included in the show notes for you, and you can grab it at beyondyourexitwm.com/podcast episode 22. First and foremost is having a will, which is a legally binding document that outlines how a person's assets will be distributed after their passing. It should be updated regularly and kept in a safe place where family members know where it is and can easily find it. To make this easy, what I see most often is keeping it within a fireproof lockbox where everyone knows where it is within the house. Second is life insurance. Now, we talked about having life insurance for funding the buy-sell agreement, but remember, that policy gets paid out to the business and the current owner to buy your ownership interest, which does get paid to your family. But depending on what stage of life you are in, the size of your estate, if you have debt, if you have kids who you want to make sure you're taking care of for college expenses, you may want to have additional personal life insurance in place that if something happens to you, it will get paid immediately to your spouse or significant other. Third is make sure you review your beneficiary designations. Many financial accounts, like retirement accounts and insurance policies, have beneficiary designations. These designations determine who will receive the assets in the event of the account holder's passing. It's very important to review these and make the necessary updates accordingly. There have been horror stories out there, folks, that people have passed away and they left their ex-wife or ex-husband on as a beneficiary and forgot to update it. Now, understand this. For example, even if you didn't mention your ex in your will because you don't want to leave them anything, if they are listed as a beneficiary on any retirement account or life insurance, they still get that money. Beneficiary designations supersede what is listed in your will. Very important. So make sure your beneficiaries are regularly reviewed and updated. Fourth is having a power of attorney, which is a legal document. I'm sure everyone's heard of a POA, and it gives another person the authority to make decisions on a person's behalf in the event they're unable to do so. Now, if you become incapacitated due to an illness or an accident, a regular POA will not fly at this point. You will need to have a durable power of attorney, which remains in force if and when the person is incapacitated or incompetent. So just make sure you have both listed in the documents. Fifth is advanced medical directives, which includes a living will, a medical power of attorney, and outlines a person's wishes for medical treatment in the event they are unable to communicate them. So this is deciding if you want CPR, a vent, feeding tube, etc. And having this all listed out relieves your family members from having to make these decisions because you've already done it and documented it. Sixth is having funeral or burial plans. So these can be prearranged and prepaid, just so that your family doesn't have to figure it out and make those decisions on your behalf when you're not there. So pretty easy to get that taken care of. Seventh is having an emergency contact list, which contains important information for family members and friends. So an example of this is having a list of your professional advisors with their contact information, such as attorneys and financial advisors. Eighth is having a digital assets inventory. This one is particularly overlooked quite often and can be a real big stressor because we do so much online these days. Really important to have this one. So it's essentially having a list of all your email accounts, social media accounts, bank accounts, any online subscription accounts, etc. This has been a big challenge for us, digging around, trying to find usernames and passwords, gain online access to credit card accounts, multiple bank accounts held at different institutions, trying to contact all the various insurance companies, and the list can go on and on here. So keep a running list of this, or you can use an app called LastPass, which actually I use, which keeps track of all your usernames, all your passwords, and you can store everything. And you only need to keep track of one master password for someone to get in there. So really useful. All right, now 9 is personal property inventory. So this is having a list of all your personal property, including jewelry, artwork, if you own any guns, etc. It should include a description of each item and any documentation like appraisals or purchase receipts. 10 is having the buy-sell agreement in place, again, specific to business owners. We just talked about that before. 11 is having a business succession plan. Okay, so we touched on this earlier a little bit with the buy-sell. This outlines the steps that will be taken to ensure the continuity of the business in the event of the owner's death or incapacity. So this should include details on various things, including the transfer of ownership, direction on management, and any necessary financing arrangements. Last is having a business inventory and assets list. Now, you should have this already for the most part if you are using an accounting software like QuickBooks or if you are using a CPA, but essentially it's a comprehensive list of all the assets and inventory within the business, including equipment, vehicles, real estate, accounts receivable, etc. So that was a lot of documents, folks. And I realize we all have so many things we need to get done on a daily basis within the business, within our personal lives, within our family. But if you can get all of these taken care of and completed and review them at least every 2 years, you will be well prepared if anything were to happen to you. You will also relieve a lot of the burden and stress on your family, on your business partners and employees from having to make these decisions for you while you're not here. For exit planning, having these documents in place will help preserve not only the continuity of your business, but also preserve the value of the business going forward. Really important. Give yourself peace of mind and get your estate plan done. All right, y'all. You all make it a great day. Hey everybody, real quick before you take off, if you found this episode helpful in any way, please rate the podcast and leave a review. I would love to get your feedback and see if there are any topics you'd like to hear more about going forward. Thank you, and I appreciate you all very much.